Scared me. You scared me. You didn't tell me you were going to do that. Gosh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Rise and
Applause.
shine, it's podcasting time.
Nice. It's session 11 for those of you who are keeping track. And we're going to do something a little different. We're always trying to change things, trying to do new stuff, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And instead of waiting until everything was perfect, like many people do, we launched, baby. We just decided to start recording, start broadcasting. So here we are, coming to you live in a million places, as many places we can go live, so that you can find us out there. Make sure you remember to come back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been interesting, right? Because we thought, well, we'll just do like a little podcast and we'll record some stuff and we'll release it when it's ready. And then we started having some interaction with the audience, and so here we are. We're going to try to do it regular, weekly, and we'll have to find a specific time to go live and have everyone be able to put it in their calendar with a link to it or whatever. But we'll figure that out.
Working on it.
Yeah,
can I, before we dive into the topic, I want to just show one thing, if you don't mind, Bradley, and I didn't tell you about this.
Not at all.
It also helps if I'm prepared before I do this, but I want people
that should be the topic today. It should be called "Why You're Not Prepared," right? Because I wasn't prepared. Now you're saying you weren't prepared. It's all good.
I'm prepared now. Now, if people want, by the way, if you go to hearmitch.com, notice how prepared I am. I do have a slide for that, and you can also scan that. But temporarily, this may not be the permanent home, but this is a searchy website, and I know a whole lot of people don't understand that, but this is one of the reasons why I chose this, and I just want to highlight this, because I was thinking about this topic that we're going to talk about this morning.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, hey, Bradley and I talked, and I'm sorry, I don't have your picture.
It's okay.
But Bradley and I talked about something a couple of weeks ago, but I don't remember exactly what he said, because I think it might be relevant to this conversation. But I want to be able to find it. Now, 99% of the people in the planet would go, I don't remember where that is. But the cool thing about Searchy, because it transcribes every podcast episode, if I come up here to the top and I type in the word that I was looking for, which was, in this case, and I can't spell it because there's something in front of me and I can't type and talk and read at the same time. Nuture. Nurture.
If you want, I can start talking too, and then I can look over your shoulder all at the same time and make it super easy for you to type.
And I obviously can't spell Nuture, because it says no results found. But if you spell things correctly, then you will get right to the episode. So if in this particular case, that was episode 3. The title doesn't tell me anything, but I do remember we talked about what's called a nurture sequence.
Yep.
And if you see over here on the right-hand side, that word is featured, and you can jump straight to that section and listen to that section over if you would like to. And you could even download the transcript and stuff like that. So I just want to highlight that to people because that function is freaking amazing. And it gives you all the capabilities of just like writing down a little note or a little phrase to say, oh, I want to go back and listen to that again. So
yeah, well, it's interesting, especially with a podcast like ours, right? That's not scripted. We have one big idea when we first start, and we will go down as many rabbit trails as you can imagine. And if you're searching for the content based on a topic, you're in trouble.
The title probably not there. The title is not necessarily reflective
misleading.
It's misleading. Yeah, especially because I do them after the fact, and who knows.
Yeah, it's all good.
So we did decide on a topic today.
Yeah, and look, if you're listening now and you want to say hi, pop something into the chat box.
Yeah,
we'd love to hear from you. And if you have questions along the way, you have comments, you just want to tell us to go pound sand, that would be okay too. But we are here and we're dedicated to taking some questions from you guys and having you interject into our conversation so that we can make it better for you. we're really here not just to hear from each other, but to help you guys. I learn something every time we get on.
Well, that's for
But
sure.
this show is not necessarily about me trying to learn something. It's about
It's
us
about
trying to
me
help
teaching
you guys.
Bradley.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's about Mitch schooling Bradley. That's the way it goes.
It's not true. Not true, because I also learned something from you, which is why we decided to do a 2-person podcast. You were going to do one by yourself, and I was going to do one by myself, and we said, hey,
let's just do it together. See what happens.
Let's be together. Little group hug.
There you go.
Oh. All right. Topic of the day. You and I both love this phrase. I actually stole it from you.
Yeah.
But the word of the day, the topic, the subject is relentless.
Yes. And relentless encouragement, if that helps at all as well. But it's relentless tenacity and initiative. All of that stuff is all together for the same reason. And let me ask you, because we didn't talk about this before the show. I'm just curious how this topic came to mind for you. What was it?
Well, there's 2 things. Number one, people are constantly asking the question, how frequently do I email my people? Right?
Yeah.
So we're always talking about building a list.
Yep.
Well, the other thing happened yesterday. Today's Wednesday, right? Monday.
It is Wednesday.
But the topic was talked about. There's a very current topic going on, and it's political, and I'm not going to get into the politics of the thing, but I was watching the thing on the TV, and a specific politician, I'm not going to name names, it's not important to talk about whom, because we don't want to go down that road. But the
I don't
thing,
know, it might be fun.
I'm trying to stay out of the weeds here, but it came out.
Mitch and I are wired different. That's why it's
Yes.
so fun.
All right. You and I will both resonate with this, because here I am watching this TV show.
Right.
And they're talking about this particular person, politician, and they mention the fact that this person or his team emails somewhere between 0 and 25 times a day. He's been logged as sending 25 emails a day. And one reporter checked yesterday and said, well, I got 17 emails from that individual today. And that individual has raised hundreds of millions of dollars via email, right? So people are always saying that email is dead.
Right.
And yet, this is the primary source of this guy's income at this point in life.
Yep.
He is sending the information that his people want to hear, and he simply says, hey, by the way, if you want to help me, send me some money. Mm-hmm. And it works, right?
Yeah, it's a simple invitation, simple ask, and it happens, as many times as it needs to happen.
So, for those of you that are sitting out there going, well, how many should I email once a month? Should I email once a week? Come on, get with the program. Be relentless. Yeah. Are some of the people dropping off of his list? Hell yes. But
absolutely,
it's freaking working for him, right?
Yeah. Well, and the reason I was asking you why it came up, it came up and sort of this is how this stuff works, folks. We come at it from completely different places, and that's why I like this show. I happened to be in the Up Viral Facebook group 3 days ago, and I saw a question asked, and it sat there not unanswered for a couple days, and the question was, hey, look, I have this campaign, and it's starting to peter off. It's kind of like what you and I were talking about before. How long do we run these things? What happens? How do we make sure they keep going? Well, that's kind of where he was. Like, this is the activity is starting to fall off. What do I do now? And my simple response was relentless encouragement. Go find it in the group. And because I talked about this years ago, and people, it's sort of lost on people.
Very much.
So here's what I'd like to do. In my mind, I'd like to sort of frame it a little bit. We have a tool you and I both use called Up Viral. All of them are the same, are very similar in the way they do this. There are 2 kinds of emails, messages, sort of in general. There's a transactional email that's given by the system that says, "Hey, look, you signed up, you've earned points, we're selecting the winner," whatever, right? Those are sort of transactional, what happens in the system. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens outside the system with the list that you're building, and that's what you and I are talking about is the effort to keep people engaged and how often to send out messages, what kinds of messages to send out to those people who just signed up for your campaign. And anyway, there's a big difference between the two. A lot of people get them confused. They figured they could just sign up for their account, they create a campaign, they launch a campaign, and somehow or another, the system is going to continue to send messages out to people to go share the content and get involved. And it doesn't
Right.
work that way.
Right.
It doesn't work
And
that
in
way.
fact, many people are confused about that tool and the other tools. And it's not
Sure.
just
Yeah. No.
this particular tool.
I'll say. Yep.
That they make the assumption that those tools are going to send out a whole bunch of broadcast emails reminding people. And some tools do it differently than UpViral does, for example, because there are some of the tools that will send out a broadcast that says 3 days left, or you're 5 points from earning this incentive, or this and that kind of stuff. And so it's not only confusing, because there are 2 tools, as you point out. There's your autoresponder, and there is the tool that you're using to do the gamification.
Yep.
But then the other side of that is, what the heck do I send to people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What do I send? It's so interesting. I just completed a campaign for a client of mine, and my onboarding sequence for that campaign, he was shocked. It's 11 messages.
What?
And he's like, what do you mean 11? I said, well, it's 11. I mean, the first one is, and I'll sort of walk you through kind of my mindset when I do these things. The first one, and this is just a regular campaign, not word of mouth yet, where we're just testing the lead magnet as it sits and trying to figure out how to incentivize the share as we move forward. So, and we're running ads to it. So the first message is, "Hey, welcome to the list, and make sure you download this special thing that we asked you to get." And then the following day, they get a message to say, "Hey, remember us? Make sure that you download it, and to get your first sort of quick hit off of it, go do this inside that particular thing." Then the third is, "Let me tell you how to get more results with what I just gave you." The fourth one is, "Let me tell you how to get faster results with what I just gave you." And then the fifth one is, "Hey, look, we have other content out there that gives you other results, or kind of expands your experience. Go, interact with it." The fourth one is, or because I guess we're now like six. The six is like, "Hey, look, here are all our social accounts. We really want to get engaged and we want to hear back from you." All the way down to number 11, where number 11 is, "So glad that you participated in this. We're really excited to see the results that you've got. I want you to hit reply and tell me how it's going." Right? That's 11. And I can do it every day. I could do it every hour. I could do it once a week. What we've chosen to do, because this is a B2B kind of exercise, we've chosen to do it once every 72 hours. And now we've got 11 messages. It onboards them an entire month. Um, it's great. It works out
Nice.
famously. And now it's on autopilot, so we don't really have to worry about it. But every bit of that content is trying to get them to get more engaged with what we gave them so they can see the value, and get engaged with us so they can understand us. So, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I know for me, that's sort of just the start, because when we're doing word of mouth advertising, there are like 4 different categories that I send messages for, and we can talk about those later.
Well, see, that's phenomenal. First of all, the takeaways from that: number 1, it's okay to send lots of emails.
Yep.
I like to point to this because for some reason it's there and I can point at it, I guess. But this is a set of DVDs from Brandon Bouchard. I went to one of his Experts Academy things a long time ago. He said, I remember this distinctly because I went, what? He said two things. Number one, I write all the emails. It's not some flunky that's writing them.
Joe Schmo.
It's me, by the way. So I'm using the words, all that kind of stuff. But he says, my primary email sequence is 99 emails. You sign up for my things, you're going to get a lot of emails from me.
Yep.
But he has a plan, right? He's created a plan. That's the second big takeaway from what you're talking about, is there's a plan for this process.
Yep.
Third takeaway, I think, is once you've created it, you can reuse it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that is some of the biggest struggles. And I have this same problem as well, by the way, because I don't email as much as I should and as much as I preach about. Because one of the things that I struggle with is that I'm not a very good planner. I confess, I'm raising my hand. It's been that way for the longest time. All of my reviews when I worked for Boeing were, hey, Mitch doesn't do enough planning. Okay, sorry.
Mitch is a fly by the seat of his pants kind of guy.
And so what happens is that you come up to the day that you're going to send out the normal email, right? You pick a day, you stick with it, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I don't have a topic. And so therefore it falls off the bit bucket and you never get it done.
Yep.
So those are my takeaways from what you just said. And they're all critical.
Yeah, and I think that if anybody's interested, I mean, if you send me an email and you ask me for an outline of that 11 message sequence, I'm happy to send it to you. The other is, as we're talking about these word of mouth campaigns, right? So what you heard was this onboarding sequence, and that's just onboarding for the lead magnet I gave them. That's not the offers that we're sending them, right? Because the offers, what you see is toward the end of the 11, the offer changes from, hey, get involved with us, to now go take the next step. So we're transitioning them into taking, doing a demo for a SaaS product and a bunch of other stuff. But in the viral side of things, or the word of mouth side of things, what I've found to be really successful are encouraging and relentless encouragement for people to share, because one, there's something in it for them, right? The first category is, let's review what happens when you share stuff, right? You earn points or you earn entries, and you stack the deck in your favor. You start to paint a picture of what life is going to be like when they win the whatever it is.
Right.
Then the second is, you want to be a good neighbor and help the people who would really benefit from this, right? Even if in a lot of the campaigns you and I do, we do these campaigns where the person who refers the winner also wins, right? So hey, look, let's think about the person that's sitting next to you, or the one that you're on the phone with regularly, struggling with the same problem. Why don't you send this over to them, because it's going to help them. At the same time, it helps you. And then the third category is, let's change the world one person at a time, right? We have an ideology that we are professing here. We have a tool that works really great for all kinds of things. And if everyone were to use this, that we would generally transform the industry that we're in. It's just an amazing thing. And then the fourth category is, let's do this for a third party benefit, right? There's, let's be selfless in it, but let's talk about what other things can happen. So those are the four categories, and you can write up to 4 or 5 emails a piece. It's not hard to do. And now all of a sudden you have this relentless wave of information that's coming for people to really start to see the benefit of sharing it, and and sort of future pace for them. They'll be able to, sort of a funny term for copywriters, but put them in a place of success in the future, and that they can see, they can tangibly feel it, they can hear it, they understand it. And it's like painting a picture for them of what success with this particular something looks like. And all of a sudden, we start to see it interacting a lot. So
those are some absolutely golden points. Bradley, you are dripping absolute gold in my opinion. People need to pay attention to what you're talking about because it's repeatable, right?
yeah, absolutely.
If we're talking purely about a contest, there is the assumption by most people who create the campaign that on the thank you page, the thing that I'm trying to make myself famous for, that you have to give them every bit of information on that thank you page, right?
Right.
Hey, by the way, if you refer a friend, and don't forget that if you refer a friend and that friend wins, and you can earn points this way, and you end up with a lot of verbiage, and here
It's
you
spelled
just
verbiage. I get it.
you just mentioned, by the way, in that long rant that went on and on and on,
I know. I'm so
about step number 2 or 3 in there was telling them that fact, remind them of that fact. And so many people forget that you can give them plenty of instruction in their email that you are sending them about the campaign that says, hey, it's day 2.
Right.
You haven't yet referred anybody, or have you referred anybody? Do you know that if you do this, you get that, and you do this, and here's what you're trying to get? You can split that over multiple days. You can remind them multiple times.
Yep.
Keep at it. Don't just assume. And this is the thing. In some of my presentations, I got some stats. One of the stats. Do you want? I bet I can bring it up really fast. At least I thought I could. Here's a
Find
stat.
the right button, Mitch.
It's right here. The folks at, of course, I pressed the button and there's some sort of delay going on.
There it is.
14% of the people that hit the share page actually take an action, and that's from Referral Sasquatch. In my stats, by the way, over all of my campaigns, that little blue piece of the pie shows that 30% of the people took action and shared in my campaigns. This relentless encouragement is part of that process that doubles the amount of interaction that happens.
Yeah.
So it's important stuff.
Yeah. I had a client. I like this show because we could talk about client work that we're doing and stories that we've had. I had a client who had an amazing following in Facebook. Somewhere near 40 or 50,000 people in his Facebook.
Nice.
And he was selling information, training programs, and the giveaway that we put together was every bit of the training that he's ever done. It's a sort of masterclass of all of it, right? And the retail value was massive. And I kept asking him to share more information. I wasn't in control of his email messaging. He chose to do that all by himself, and I signed up to his list so I would see what he was sending out.
Yeah.
and we're like 10 days into it, and I said, we don't have any interaction yet. What's going on? It's like, well, I'm just in my Facebook group. I'm talking to him, and but you're just talking to your audience in your Facebook group. Not everybody's in your Facebook group, and can you please send out some more email messages? I begged him for 3 weeks. Can you please? He sends out one email message. He calls me back and he says, hey, I think we're gonna have to cut this campaign short. I can't serve all the customers I just got.
Nice.
And I said, Matt, way to go, dude. I appreciate it. This is exactly what I'm talking about is, when you're talking in an echo chamber to all the people who are already followers of you, they've probably already taken action, right? You've popped it into the group, you've promoted it in the group, and that echo chamber, you can continue to promote in there, but pretty soon you're going to start to see the interaction is going to start to fall off. And if you choose a different channel, and thank goodness some of these tools actually tell us what the interaction with these channels are. You can dramatically change your results. And like this guy has a tiger by the tail, and that one campaign, I think we generated about $350,000 in revenue for him. It
Wow.
was unbelievable, and he quite literally shut it down because he just couldn't. He felt like the quality of service he was providing was starting to fall off precipitously. I mean, it was just, I can't do it. I mean, we're so busy. I was like, okay, then stop and just take good care of the customers you've got right now and do it again later. So yeah,
That's
it's kind of
amazing.
fun.
It
Yeah,
is
it's kind of
amazing.
fun.
And it is quite common. I
Yeah.
have mentioned the granola bar people that I worked with,
Yep. Yeah.
and trying to convince them that they should, first of all, invite people that are on their existing list to join the
Right.
campaign,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because
Well, why? Why?
because
Why would we want them? We already
they're
have them.
already on, yeah, they're already spending money with me. Why would I bother to have them join a contest where they can earn stuff from me? I don't want to
Right.
lose that revenue that they're spending.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but
Yeah.
it's the lack of logic, I think, pops in quite quite frequently.
For
And
sure.
it's quite some of that also is you and I have learned these lessons, right? And which is why we're sharing them.
Yeah, I think that if I had just started to try to promote these kinds of campaigns, and not understand the power of email or understand the power of this relentless encouragement, I would be real timid about it too, because we all get a lot of email.
Right?
The email up Here's what's interesting. I get a lot of email from a lot of different providers and all kinds of different, uh, kind of walks of life, and I screen them based on my experience of whether or not the information is valuable.
Right?
I mean, I know, hey, look, they're in my inbox. I'm not going to unsubscribe, but I'm not going to read it because it's sort of the same thing, or it's kind of boring to read, or I don't have time to go through all those details. I'd rather, have it a different way. And there are some emails where man, I'm looking forward to it. Even though I know I'm part of somebody else's, regular stream of information coming out, I look forward to it. I want to hear the story that's inside it. I want, I want to hear the humor. I want whatever it is, but there are things that are attracting me to the message, and it's just something interesting to me. So I'm okay to open it, and I'll open 5 or 6 a day. I don't care.
What?
I know. I know.
Do you encourage, or we talked about the nurture word, and now by the way, nurture is going to appear twice in the
There
search
you
if you go
go.
back and do the search later. So,
Yes, uh-huh.
sometimes you have to not say the word, but um it, how
I'm gonna
much
censor you.
value are you sending versus sales pitch or calls to action?
I love it. There's always a call to action. Always, always, always,
What?
always, 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 always a call to action. So for me, the call to action is oftentimes sometimes it's sort of in your face,
Right?
but most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's, hey, look, you just heard some valuable information in here. If you want to solve this problem faster, quicker, easier, all you have to do is go pick up X, Y, and Z. Or hey, look, we talked about this specific principle. You can dive into more detail over here at this link. It's an invitation to participate, but I'm not cramming it down their throat. If I am doing a limited time offer, it will get to be more and more intense toward the end. And then finally, the last day will generally be 3 or 4 messages. And those 3 or 4 messages are, you better act now or it's going away,
Yeah.
and then it goes away. So there's always an offer, and then you're talking about value. That there are a lot of people maybe see this differently. The value that I'm providing is, you got on my list because of a certain something. I usually exchanged I don't know, it's a super duper checklist or special report or special video or something else where there's some information in there. Then my series will deliver value on how to get more out of what I just gave you. That's the value I'm delivering. I'm not picking up another topic and just sort of, giving free advice. And then for those people who are doing these kind of campaigns, what I find is you get more interaction on the click if the information you're providing in the email is about what to do, not how to do it.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of it. But the what to do is still valuable. Right?
Sure.
Here are the things you got to do. And if you want to know how to do it, click on the link. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. It's also, I think, hard for people to consider. I get wrapped up in telling stories, and I don't know if I think you're on my list. Are you on my list?
I am on your list.
Oh, good. Because I mean, I've had some people come back to me that read my emails and say, "Where was your call to action?" And I'm like,
right.
Sometimes what I'm simply trying to do is to tell a story,
right,
and it's relevant to what I eventually want to offer.
Yep.
And I almost always have a call to action in that I will simply say, well, hit reply and tell me what you think, or has that ever happened to you? So it's not necessarily sending people someplace to go learn more, but often I want to learn more about whether or not this is effective to people. I want to find out if the message is resonating. And frankly, there's also a bit of greed in it, in that I know some of the email algorithms really love a conversation.
Sure.
One of my mentors, Christina Etheridge, keeps telling me, create a conversation and your open rates will go up, because the email systems see your email as somebody that has conversations as opposed to just constantly sell.
Yeah.
And therefore your open rates will go up and you'll be able to impact more people. So sometimes I'm just telling a story to try to get a reaction, or to keep people engaged without just saying, here's more, go buy this, or, and I hear you said, be subtle about it. If you want more information, you can come over here, and maybe that's something to buy, or maybe it's just a training video or something that you're offering for free, or a blog post, right? Yep. But I do agree that you should always, I have to be careful, have a call to action.
Yeah, there should always be an offer in there somewhere. I mean, even if it's just in the signature of signature line of the email, that provides us for them to sign up for a demo, sign up for an additional consultation. I mean, there are all kinds of. This is the stuff that you and I continue to talk about, right? Is how do you get more referrals, or how do you get more people to interact? Is every time they get something from you, they land on a thank you page, they get an invoice, they get email messages, they get Twitter messages, whatever, instant messages, and there's a way for them to interact with you, and that's really good stuff. So I dig it, totally dig it.
Yeah. For those of you who are watching, I'm sorry, I'm just going to hit the reminder.
I was going to do the same thing.
Hey, by the way, if you're out there watching and you have something to say or a question to ask, please pop it in the comments. We should be able to see it.
Yeah, in
we're
fact,
Go ahead.
Are we streaming in Twitch this time? I haven't seen us be spammed.
We are.
In the chat box yet. Well, I don't know what happened to the last.
I don't know either.
The last people participating, and the cleverness apparently has gone away.
There is one person watching from Twitch.
Oh, that's awesome.
Interesting.
Welcome, Twitch crowd.
Interestingly, yesterday when I did my live stream, plug every Tuesday, I had somebody do the same kind of bot thing on YouTube. Which really surprised me. Yes, I was surprised because the little icon came through as a YouTube icon, and I was like, And apparently, interestingly enough, that YouTube blocks those kind of comments from people that are rewatching.
Oh,
automatically, because I went over to both of my
awesome.
YouTube channels that I'm streaming to,
Yeah.
and those comments about
Yeah.
the yeah,
Man vegetable?
it was about how to use the man vegetable. But anyway, um, those comments weren't there. I didn't see them, so maybe if I dug deeper, they're in some blocked section or something. But thank you, YouTube, for.
Yeah,
But if
for
you were
sure.
watching live, they were definitely coming up. So
Yeah.
like God.
So I want to get back to your storytelling a little bit,
Uh,
because I think that it's really interesting what you have what you're doing. You're doing the stuff that we normally do when we all get together, right?
right.
If you hang out with family or friends, you go to a barbecue someplace, you're at the gym, you're at a bar, you're at dinner, everyone's telling stories. Um, I'm just curious because I haven't sort of studied your email messages, and I promise not to. I'm not here to try to get into the psychology of Mitch. But in your experience, this sort of here's where I'm after is, are you saying here's the moral of the story, and then leading somebody someplace, or are you just simply saying, hey, look, this is what happened in my life today. What happened in your life today?
It is definitely the first one,
The
the
moral of the
moral of
story.
the story. Uh,
Okay.
and I'm gonna, before I go answer that. Look,
Yeah.
Deborah's here. I'm
Hey,
here
Deborah.
waiting for you guys to drop some awesome stuff. Well, you
Well, where have
missed
you
it
been?
already. I'm working with a curl error for a client on Igno anyway, so
Oh man.
that's okay, Deborah. We're happy that you're here one way or the other.
Yeah.
Um, so I had, going way back, I'm going to go in the way back machine.
Yeah.
When I was doing my Planet 5D blog,
Yep.
which was a photography, video, curated news blog, right? That was
Yep.
my real goal, was to sort of just curate the news. What I did in that was to always give a brief comment about why this story I'm going to share with you is important. Because I figured, I mean, there were plenty of blogs that would just hit you with news,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it was your responsibility to figure out what applied to you and what didn't.
Yeah.
But I felt the thing that would make me unique was to give that story some understanding, some why is this important to you? And I think that's where I was thinking about some of the broadcasters of the past that like did the nightly news back when we used to
Yeah.
watch the nightly
Yeah.
news on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would give you the relevance. Why is this important?
Sure.
And it wasn't the whole part of the story. But so when I started doing, and I was doing a daily email at that point, and so there may be 2 or 3 news stories in the daily email, all of them pointing them for the details over to my blog to try to get traffic over there.
Yeah.
But I told the information about why I thought that was important. So in doing emails with what I'm doing now with Thank You Page Magic, I feel like, and I think some of my readers will agree, because they write me and tell me, God, that was a great story.
Yeah.
And what I do is I take relevant stories, like the one that we started with the politician, and I relate it to what I'm going to teach, or what I want you to do to take action.
Yeah.
And so I pat myself on the back. I feel like I do a really good job of telling a story from either my past or a current.
Yeah.
Really diving into the story itself and making it an engaging story so that people want to get to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Because we all know people will read the beginning and then they'll scroll the bottom to find out what you really want them to do, right? They miss the stuff in the middle. And I often feel like the stuff in the middle is where the joy is. What I like to do, and I'll tell you briefly, we all are supposed to have a word of what motivates us. What do we, is it your kids? Is it money? Is it this or that? And I eventually discovered that it's joy. I like to share joy, and I like people to have joy when they are done doing my stuff, whether it's joy that they get from more money or growing their business or providing more incentive. And I still wanted to go back to that because one of the things you said earlier that I think is very relevant that people forget, one of the golden things that you dropped, was to ask people to do the sharing part, because when they share, they are helping other people.
Right.
One of the people that's in my sphere of influence came up with this phrase, and I've started using it. Her name was Claudia. And she said one day on one of my shows, she said, what you're talking about is micro-influencers. And I liked that phrase because each person, and I've latched on to some of the wording that you're using, right? But each person that we impact has the ability to impact others. And they're not going to be the major influencers, right, that are going to bring in 50,000 people. But if you can share with somebody that they can make an impact, if they can change the world one person at a time, they're therefore a micro-influencer, and they feel good about that, right? So not only are they helping somebody else, but they're helping themselves, and they feel good about it, which is, I wanted to highlight that again, because I think that's critical to what we're doing.
Yeah, it's so funny. People somehow or another believe that when you start to communicate about your business, that you're now all of a sudden having to speak in a completely different tone. It has to be sterile and what have you. But I mean, if you just imagine what it's like to hang out with friends, we all take each other's advice for stuff all the time. And it is so transformational when you sort of get that out of your head to say, I don't need to be all stuffy and rigid about this. I just need to talk to people. And your micro influencer, look, I lived in the South for a little while, and I just call them really, really nice folk, right?
Yeah.
They're just really nice folk. Everybody knows who they are. They pay attention to them. They like to hear their stories, and they wish them well. And if somebody has some good advice, they follow it, which is really great. So it's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
So AJ said, by the way, AJ is one of my mastermind members. So he's
cool.
My transformation, he was talking about me, is creating joy. And that's absolutely what I think I'm hopefully bringing to people is more joy in their lives.
That's good. Well, it's good that we don't take ourselves too dang seriously then. That's for sure.
And Deborah points it out too, and I have heard that phrase and used that phrase, but I like this one. Mitch, that is a great motivational thought to want to create joy. I'm also thinking it's your own very own butterfly effect. That's another phrase that people would resonate with, I think.
Yeah, the butterfly effect for sure.
Right?
For sure. Yeah. I was gonna ask you when you're doing these messages. I'm sort of really curious about your process when you're writing emails, because the process is maybe the tool or the key for other people to be able to do something similar. And if they don't know how it happens, if they don't know how the sausage is made, sometimes they're like, "Hey, that's a really great idea. I just don't know what to do. I mean, I don't even know where to start." So I'm gonna just ask a few questions to see if I can sort of tease some stuff out. When you are going through that process, are you thinking ahead of time of the message or the moral that you want to deliver, and you adapt the story to say that? Or are you sort of regurgitating a story and then thinking about, well, how does that apply to today, and then keep moving forward? What is your process? How do you do that?
I'm laughing not at you or at the question, but I'm laughing because it varies. The answer I like to give a lot, and you'll hear it from me, is it depends. One of the things, I'll go back, first of all, Christina Etheridge, I've talked about her already once today. One of the things that she had us do in an exercise in her membership was to start a story journal or a story book, or, so what I did was I sat down for a couple of hours one day And I just captured what story could I tell from my past about the time I drowned in a pool, about this or that. And sometimes what I do is I say, well, there's a framework that I want to teach, or a specific point that I want to make about thank you page magic. And it has to do with relating to XYZ. And I go into that list and I go, what story would apply that I could take and tell that story that they haven't heard yet and apply it to get them to go, oh, I get why you would do this thing, right? The what thing that you were talking about earlier.
Yep.
The other way I do it is I do have like I will take a topic that's hot. Like today, I was actually writing a blog post about that politician story that I told earlier, because it's absolutely critical that people take what's out there in the world, something they relate to, and bring it in to suck it in to go, well, now I get why that's important. I mean, that guy's taking email to the ultimate extreme, and people keep saying email is dead. But here I got this guy that's making 250 million plus by sending emails, right?
That's right.
So it's critical to be able to take
and he's
those
selling
processes back. Yeah,
and he's
absolutely.
selling vapor, right? I mean, he's selling hope. That's what he's selling.
He's selling hope. Exactly.
That's what he's selling. Yeah. No, it's super interesting. And sort of one of the reasons I was asking is stories are really powerful from an emotional perspective, right?
Yeah.
You talked about you said, and it's hard to keep going in a conversation when you said, let me tell you about the story in which I almost drowned. Right? Most people are like, what? Nobody knows about that story, right? Well, there's an emotional hook to it, and it has to do with, fear, all kinds of things, right? Where we know what our audience, if we understand our audience, we already understand what our audience is feeling, right? If they're embarrassed by something, if they're fearful of something, if they're excited about something, well, then what in our own lives, what experiences have we had that have elicited the same emotion? And how do we tell the story in a way that at the end we can link that emotion to, hey, look, because of this story, I know how fearful you are.
Right.
Or I know how embarrassing it is, or I know how uncomfortable you are, or, all those other things. And all of a sudden you have this rapport with the audience, and it makes it easier for them to understand the moral in it. And I was just trying to understand your process in that, because it's a very powerful thing that you have.
Right.
You just have to sort of figure out how to do it. So.
And part of that, I know you're going to get to Deborah's comment. Part of that, frankly, is I've done it a million times. I pointed before at Brendan Burchard. One of the other big takeaways I took from him was to get in front of a mirror, or while you're driving your kids to soccer or whatever, just pick a topic and talk about it for 10 minutes. And don't pause. Don't throw it. Just talk, right? Because if you are able to create a one-sided conversation where you can just spill out your knowledge, whether you know a whole lot about the topic or not is not important. But it's the ability to deliver it. And over the years since I started Planet ID in 2008, I've learned how to write a story that wraps people up into where I want them to go at the end.
Yeah, and it can sound very manipulative. I don't want it to sound that way.
No,
it is a way to emotionally connect with your audience, which is really unique. I have no idea what, as you were talking, I sort of glanced at Deborah's comment, but then I never read it. So what do we got here?
Deborah says, see, a storybook as a reference is a brilliant idea. So I didn't. I miss it already. But the lesson learned is sometimes it's important just to show up, even if you're late. Exactly. Way to go, Deborah. Just show up if you're. Yeah.
Yeah. Just show up.
You can always watch the replay.
Yeah. You were talking about this idea of having to stand in front of a mirror and tell a story. A lot of people who are here have no idea. I attended the United States Naval Academy. And one of the things that I had to do on a daily basis was I had to read 3 newspaper articles and be able to speak under pressure
Oh,
for 5 minutes apiece on each article, and that was part of
nice.
what they call daily rates. Um,
Huh.
and it sort of trained me the same way, right? Let's go through the article. Let's figure out the relevance of the article, the key points in the article, and be able to organize in my own brain very quickly, sort of the lily pads I had to land on as I was telling the story that was still relevant and true, but I didn't
Right.
have to remember all of the details. And then at the end of the day, if I could relate that to something that I was currently working on, I could extrapolate this. I needed 5 minutes, so so I can simply say, here are some of the concerns that we all might have, or here is why that matters, and it really sort of fascinating in the process.
And all of that is tuned into making us great politicians, isn't it?
Well, and that's one of the products of going to the United States Naval Academy, is the hope that you will be a leader
A
in
leader,
government,
right?
right? A leader
Exactly.
in government. So yeah. Um, yeah,
Right.
and so AJ says the story should relate to I was just like you. No, I am just like you.
Yes.
So oftentimes people will hear me say, this is what happened to me, and I'm not sure about you, but this is, how I would deal with it. As I'm telling those stories, uh, I am trying to say, hey, look, I I I get it. I don't want to be so presumptuous to say I understand you, because I think that that's too far. I
Right.
can say, it sounds like you feel like, or it seems like you feel like, and I have felt that way myself, or I feel that way now.
Right.
But if you come across, you can come across as too far over, like you are manipulating them to say, I understand you. No, no,
Right.
no. You're not hearing me.
Right. And I
Hear me. Don't understand me. Hear me. Like, okay, I'll hear you.
and one of the things, if I don't think I said it specifically, but I think it's important. One of the primary reasons why I tell stories
Oh,
and not be droll and mechanical like you were talking about earlier
yep.
is I want people to come back. I want people to go, "Oh, Mitch is telling a story. I got to read this."
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I want to stand out in the inbox, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I have several people that I follow, and when I get an email from them, I'm like, okay, time out. If I have time, assuming I'm not doing something critical, I go, okay, I'm going to read that because that one's going to do something for me.
Yep.
And so that is a primary driver to not be boring and mechanical.
Yeah, absolutely. And Deborah's asking a good question, right? So, do you have them tagged so I can categorize my storybook to make them easy to find and associate when looking? How do you organize the stories? And you may not. I mean, you may
I
have them kind
don't.
of rattling around in your head. Um,
I
I'm
do
a
have it.
little.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I was just going to say I'm a little more deliberate. So, what do you said? I do have what?
Nothing. I
Nothing.
use a tool called Workflowy,
Okay.
which is an outliner tool. I
Yep.
I love it because it just lets you shove stuff in it, and you
Yep.
can organize it and you can tag it.
Yep.
I am learning, excuse me, older in life that I wish I tagged more things.
Me too.
I'm like, oh man, if I had some tags, this
Yeah.
would be a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
But I
How does Workflowy work? What do you do?
um, Workflowy is a fascinating tool. It has a free version, and I am paying for it because I use it for absolutely everything. I would demo it. I don't know if we want to get
Okay.
into a demo about that. We could possibly do
Yeah,
it another day.
yeah, I was gonna say I have a tool too that's very similar, I think. And I think that would be a really interesting show. How do
Yes.
you categorize your information? How do you make it searchable? How do you find it? How do you be effective in your time? Because we're overwhelmed by information,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's just so hard to stay organized. And I have my method, and it sounds like you've got a method too. Let's do that for another show.
All right.
But I was going to tell Deborah that what I have done is I have what I call and what has been called by other people, um, an emotional story inventory. And it will what I do is I have them categorized by the emotion
Mm.
that is in the story. So depending on where I need to be, I can kind of bring them up. Like if I'm trepidatious about initiative, I'll tell a story. I have an amazing story about the United States Naval Academy and being called out for calling a woman a man, and it was
Mm.
an officer. That's not pretty, and you should never ever try to do that. I have a story in which my college buddies and I almost drowned as we ran a truck into the water.
Mm.
Uh, I have a story of hanging out on a sailboat in the Gulf of Mexico. I have when I saw someone thrown overboard off of a ship or hoisted off of a mainsail into the Severn River. I've got all kinds of funny stories, but they are all associated with the emotion that is in there.
Right.
And then well, then what I'm trying to do is how do I connect with my audience? Where are they right now, and what story is gonna be relevant to them? And then I'm always adding to those bits because 'cause I'm a kind of a funny observer of human behavior. And there will be things where, we'll drive down the road and go, I never even imagined somebody would do that. And I'll sort of log it into my memory banks. And if I'm good at it, I'll come back and I'll put it in my emotional story inventory. If not, then it sort of has to come back by memory. And my memory is getting worse and worse as I get older. So I like this tool that you're talking about.
Yes. Tools are important. Deborah said, "Oh, I'm thinking of Evernote." I
That
have
works.
used Evernote, by the way,
It
in the
works. If
past,
it's a
and
tool
yes,
you have, use it.
it does work very well. I just navigated what workflow is an interesting one. That is, I think it's hard to learn, but once you learn it, it is stunning. Deborah's other comment was, I'm thinking to combine both Mitch and Bradley's suggestions in the car, turn on the recorder on my phone, and spontaneously explain something, then transcribe and edit. It becomes a talking point blog post or other content. See, that's something I never did was to actually
Yep.
use that content. That's potentially a real time saver in that
Yep.
you could create entire blog posts or
Yep.
content while you're doing this as a practice thing, and that's a very interesting idea.
Yeah, and there are, some really cool and rather inexpensive speech to text,
Sure.
translations or transcribers. So, I know a bunch of people who do exactly that, Deborah. They'll get in the car, they'll have a topic in mind, they're driving to work or they're going to the grocery store, they're going to pick up their kids, and it's 5 or 10 minutes, but that's 5 or 10 minutes is like 1,200 words in a blog post.
Right.
So, they record it on their phone, they download it, or upload it to an AI that's doing the transcription, they edit it very quickly, and they get it out there, and at the end of it, there's always a moral and there's always an offer.
Right.
It's a great way to do things, for sure.
And there are tools like you just said that will help you do that. Which is why I just wrote down we need a tools show. Um,
Yep,
because
absolutely, it
a tool like Descript, I don't know if you've used Descript yet.
mm-mm,
I haven't
nope,
used it, but I know it's out there. Would take Deborah's idea. Uh, I suspect you're not doing a video. I don't want anybody recording video in a car because it's very dangerous. Don't do it. But if you're just doing this extemporaneous thinking stuff, Descript would take that and create an audio. So it lets you take the transcript and just grab words and say, I want this group of words, that group of words, and it will spit out a video at the end, in which case you could extract the
Yep,
audio. Anyway, so it's like a really quick way to do the edit because you're reading what you said as opposed to sitting there and listening and go cut and edit. It's a
yeah,
fast process. But anyway,
yep, for sure. Yeah,
we are at an
I think
hour, by the way.
yeah, there's some really cool stuff out there, and Deborah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in some of your comments. The point here is that there are a whole bunch of other tools that everyone uses, and there's methodologies that everyone uses. Some people are great at writing, some people are great at talking, some people love to do the video, some people love to do demonstrations and they want to be face to face. Find whatever works for you,
Right.
that's sort of effortless, and then do that, and you're gonna as long as you understand who your market is, you're gonna attract the right people. It'll be okay. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Just do what works for you. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, good stuff.
Time to land the plane there, Bradley. We're in an hour.
Okay. All right. Well, if people need to get a hold of me, and if you're interested in maybe getting a list or an outline of an onboarding sequence or other stuff for an email message series and relentless encouragement, send me an email at bradley@waldropcommunications.com, bradley@waldropcommunications.com, or you can call me at 916-314-0413. There will be a landing page. I have a domain already, but we're just still working on it, and it's like everything else. It's a work in progress. So these are the best ways to get a hold of me. How about you?
By the way, there's a new tool that I have been using for a while. Speaking of tools, it's Mac only, but it's called Text Sniper. I have on the screen Bradley's email address, but if you use Text Sniper, you can actually just roll over that and grab that text from a live video or a recorded video.
Yep.
It's amazeballs.
Cool.
Anyway, I am, of course, available at contactmitch.com. Has all the information about how you can reach me if you want to sign up for the newsletter. All that kind of stuff is there. So please go, just contactmitch.com is the fastest way to get me.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. We'll do this again next week. We will do what we can to actually have a real time, a hard time to launch and start, go live, and then you guys can join on time. And we love your interaction, so keep it up.
We do.
And share it with somebody else.